To begin the new year, Exhibit Tours has made it into Wisconsin to the state's largest zoological park. The newer Milwaukee County Zoo opened in 1961. Today, we'll be covering what I like to call the zoo's central hub of exhibits. Officially dubbed Africa, Asia, and South America, a large portion of what you'll see today was constructed for the zoo's opening. Many of the larger yards were built in the form of predator-prey panorama exhibits, first pioneered by Karl Hagenbeck in Germany, in which the predators and their prey appear to share the same space. A design that was once considered the cutting edge of zoo exhibitry. In the center of this area is the Florence, Mila, Borchert Big Cat Country, which will also be covered on today's tour. It's no secret that between trends towards larger exhibit sizes and many species becoming increasingly rare in the US, many major American zoos have lost a number of species from their collections in the last couple decades, and Milwaukee is no exception. According to the zoo's 1973 guidebook, this area of the zoo once displayed 50 species in the 18 outdoor habitats. However, on today's video, we'll see just 26 species in roughly the same exhibits. So, throughout the video, look for notes listing the former species that once lived in each exhibit. And with that lengthy intro completed, let's begin. This section of the zoo can be entered from a number of different points, so today we'll be walking through it following the path that I've taken on my 2 visits. Turning left upon entering the zoo and continuing straight under the bridge, the first exhibit you come to is a modest grassland yard labeled as the African Savanna. On my last visit, it was home to 5 species, 4 of which are birds. The carrion-loving cinereous vulture, who, despite their inclusion in an African habitat here, are mostly native to Europe, the Middle East, and Central Asia. The southern ground hornbill holds the record as the world's largest hornbill. Despite their name and ground-dwelling lifestyle, they are not a flightless species and can fly up to 18 miles per hour. There's also the West African black-crowned crane, and 4 American white pelicans, who seem to have gotten lost on the African plains. Finally, the most notable on this savanna, the Thompson's gazelle. A fairly common sight across their relatively small East African range, these gregarious antelope often congregate in large numbers, with the largest herds reaching up to 1,000 individuals. The Thompson's gazelle can reach speeds of more than 40 miles per hour and use their quick agility to elude equally fast predators like the cheetah. This is the first of 4 predator-prey setups, where cheetah sisters Mila and Minnie prowl a grotto-style grassy yard that is designed to appear as one space with the gazelles and birds in front of them. An unseen moat separates the 2 habitats, preventing the cheetahs from leaping down onto the savanna. The cheetah's sleek build and special adaptations like an enlarged heart help them use explosive speed to chase down fast prey like the Thompson's gazelle. Moving to the left, the next habitat is first viewed from the land portion, but to get the best view, you'll want to enter into the main plaza for the Dohmen Family Foundation Hippo Haven. Opening in the summer of 2020 as the second phase of Adventure Africa, it includes educational signage and displays, as well as the underwater viewing pass, a perspective now offered by virtually every newer exhibit for this species. Here you can come nose to nose with one of the zoo's most beloved animals, Happy the hippopotamus. Happy, who just celebrated his 42nd birthday, arrived in Milwaukee from the Smithsonian's National Zoo in 2009. Listed at 5,300 pounds at the time of this exhibit's opening, he is one of the largest individual hippos in North America. As Happy is happily demonstrating, hippos don't actually swim, but instead walk along the bottom of the rivers they inhabit. Despite this, they are well suited for their mostly aquatic lifestyles. Their eyes, ears, and nostrils are located on top of their heads, which allows them to breathe and see above water while staying almost completely submerged. They are able to hold their breath for around 5 minutes and can raise themselves to the surface to breathe when sleeping without waking up. As you exit out of the underwater viewing, you can check out the purification station to learn how the zoo keeps the hippo pool clean using an environmentally friendly system. The next exhibit down the line is viewed from a small boardwalk deck. This smaller yard is home to Red River hogs Mort and Dudley, who came from the Dallas Zoo. But since we just talked about them on my last tour, we'll be moving on. Next door is an exhibit that was recently re-fenced for a new species that wasn't quite on exhibit yet when I visited. What you're looking at is actually the former home for their African elephants, who now have a much larger modern home in the nearby Adventure Africa. And this space will eventually be used for Adventure Africa Phase 3, which I'll be discussing a little later on. At the end of the line is a single habitat that is somewhat separated from the rest of the exhibits. It was expanded to include a feeding deck in 2006 where guests can get up closer with the Reticulated Giraffe, a very popular zoo animal that we'll likely see again on many tours. So what I really want to talk about today is the babies. Milwaukee's herd welcomed 2 not-so-little additions in 2022. First came Poppy on May 27th, followed by Asante on August 4th, who was actually born on exhibit while the zoo was open, where unsuspecting visitors were able to witness the birth, which can be quite the spectacle to see as the baby falls 6 feet to the ground. At birth, a baby giraffe is already around 6 feet tall and 150 pounds, and they are able to stand within the first hour. Around the backside of the habitat is indoor viewing for the giraffes, where I saw the calf's father, Baja. Across from the giraffes is the Pachyderm Mall, where you once may have seen elephants, rhinos, hippos, and tapirs in these indoor stalls. Today, things are a bit more sparse around here, but you will still most likely see Patty, the zoo's 53-year-old female hippo, who prefers to stay in the indoor pools. Happy was actually originally brought to Milwaukee as a potential mate for Patty and her daughter Puddles, but he never really hit it off with the ladies. As for Patty, after outliving her daughter, she is now enjoying her solo retirement. We're now in a sort of central plaza, which contains an exhibit for red pandas, who I haven't captured any footage of on either of my visits. But if you want to learn about them, I've talked about them on several other tours. Also within the plaza are glass windows that look into 2 habitats that we'll see later on our tour, although one has been vacant for several years. Passing once again through the Pachyderm Mall and moving around to the right are 2 adjacent yards that for many years held black rhinos of both the eastern and southern subspecies. The last rhino, Josie, moved to the Oregon Zoo in 2021 on a breeding recommendation, but rhinos will eventually be returning to Milwaukee with Phase 3 of Adventure Africa, which will be a new rhino complex that will see the current yards combined as one, and repurpose the old elephant exhibit as a second rhino yard. The project will also include a new indoor setup for the hippos, with construction potentially beginning as soon as later this year. For now, if you visit, you'll see a pair of shaggy yaks, who were brought in as temporary residents for the former rhino yards. Moving on down the line is another former pachyderm habitat, this one previously featuring the Malayan tapir. It is now home to everyone's favorite feline species, the sulcata or African spurred tortoise. The next exhibit is the largest Asian yard, inhabited by a herd of Bactrian camels. There wasn't much action from them on my last visit, but on my 2021 visit I had the opportunity to see baby Oliver when he was just 3 days old. Oliver was born on April 13th, 2021 to mother AJ and father Stan, the pair's 3rd calf together at the zoo. For this yard, there's actually 2 predator backdrops. The right side is currently empty but used to display the increasingly rare in the US Asiatic black bear. On the right, however, stalking the camels is the Amur tiger, the world's largest cat, topping out at 13 feet long and 700 pounds. Natives of Far East Russia, they are well adapted to the Wisconsin winters, with dense fur and paws that act as snow boots. Although their population has rebounded, they are still considered critically endangered. This is Cash, who was part of a litter of 3 born here in 2016. Within a few steps, you're transported from Asia to South America, what was once one of the zoo's most diverse yards. It is now home to 3 species, with the star being Ebu, a 5-year-old Baird's tapir who came to Milwaukee from the Reed Park Zoo in Arizona. The Baird's tapir is one of 3 tapir species native to Central and South America. While they may seem small compared to other pachyderms, the tapir is the largest terrestrial mammal in South America, tipping the scales at over 600 pounds. As you can see, they are at home in the water and are able to use their short prehensile snouts as a snorkel. Ebu's roommates include the greater rhea, another South American title holder as the continent's largest bird. There's also a herd of the Andes native alpaca, who Ebu just can't seem to make friends with no matter how hard he tries. Unsurprisingly, the South American predator prowling behind them is the regal rosetted jaguar. And we might as well keep the largest theme going since the jaguar is the largest cat in the Americas. They also have the strongest bite force relative to their size of any feline. And of the 40 species of wild cats, the jaguar is only one of 4 that can roar, which I was able to capture. Like the tapir, jaguars are at home in the water, which allows them to hunt aquatic and semi-aquatic species such as the tapir, capybara, and caimans. There is a side path that allows you to get a closer view of the jaguar habitat through glass. From here, I saw the zoo's female Stella acting a little silly. One way keepers keep their big cats entertained is with scents, which is probably what you're looking at here. And it makes sense, since a jaguar's acute sense of smell plays a large role in many aspects of their life. Around the bend, we arrive at the watering hole, the second of 2 mixed species African yards. My first time by this exhibit, I was quite surprised when 2 of the water buck took off running, something I've never seen from the water buck at Binder Park, despite my countless visits. Even though I'm featuring them on back-to-back tours, waterbuck aren't the most common of antelope to see in US zoos. Like most antelope, they are social animals living in herds of 6 to 30 members, which are comprised either of female and their young or bachelor males. Mature bulls are very territorial, defending their territory and the females within it. The watering hole is also home to the Burchell's or Damara zebra and the greater kudu. The edge of the watering hole is patrolled by 2 African carnivores. One that we'll see later rotates with the queens of the Savanna, who were far from active, so if you want to see more of them, click on the card above. We're now headed for what you could consider this area's part 2. But first, like the rest of the big cats, there's a window giving a closer view of the watering hole predators. Moving inside, the first room has a window looking into the keeper's kitchen, and glass viewing for the cheetahs, signaling that we've made a complete lap around the entire complex. Now properly entering into big cat country, the first habitat on the left is the smallest in the building for the area's only small cat, the African Serval, a male named Amos from Little Rock, who is the first of his kind to live at the zoo since 1993. If you think he looks a little disproportionate, you're not wrong, since Servals have the longest legs relative to body size of all the cats, which gives them their nickname, the Giraffe Cat. Opposite the Serval is the indoor rotational exhibit for the lions and spotted hyenas Scruffy and Nyota. Are they cats or dogs? While they more closely resemble canines, the answer is neither. Hyenas are their own unique family, and their closest relatives are not cats or dogs, but instead mongooses and civets. There are 4 extant species of hyenas, with the spotted hyena being the most common in zoos. Going against the general rule of the animal kingdom, female hyenas are larger and the leaders of hyena clans. Despite what their portrayal in The Lion King would have you believe, spotted hyenas are extremely intelligent, with some sources indicating that their intelligence rivals that of primates. Finally, it is appropriate that they are displayed here in rotation with the lions, since the two species are rivals in their native range. Close by is the indoor home for the zoo's jaguars. In here, on my 2021 visit, I saw Stella's 8-year-old son Frankie, who I believe is still at the zoo, although I did not see him on my most recent visit. Instead, I saw Stella again indoors. This past November, Stella celebrated her 19th birthday, a very impressive age for a big cat. During her time in Milwaukee, she has had 2 litters of cubs. These births introduced valuable genetic diversity into the captive population since Pat, the cub's father who has since passed, was rescued from the wild after he started to develop a taste for livestock. The last and largest exhibit in the building is for the Amur tigers. In here, I saw their female Tula, who is actually Cash's half-sister and was also born here in Milwaukee back in 2009. In the back corner by the tigers are a number of educational and interactive displays, as well as one last tiny window known as the Kid's Eye View, which looks into the cheetah yard. Exiting out of Big Cat Country, we're back in the Central Plaza, but this time you're shepherded into a viewing shelter where, in this mountainous habitat, we'll see the final species on today's tour, the snow leopard. A famously reclusive big cat living a solitary life at high elevations throughout Central Asia. You're looking at Asa, the zoo's male who I saw here in 2021. Sadly, he passed away in June of 2022. In his time at the zoo, he did father a cub in 2020, a female named Mila, who now lives at the Akron Zoo. And with them ends our first tour through the Milwaukee County Zoo. A look at what is still the central fixture of the zoo, even 60 years after it opened. I hope you find it as interesting as I do to walk through a complex built decades ago with what at the time was considered the cutting edge of zoo exhibitry, but has adapted and now begun to modernize in the present day. Today's question of the video will be trivia based. We all know lions, tigers, and jaguars can roar, but what is the 4th type of wild feline that can roar? As always, thank you for watching my tours, and here's a teaser of the next video.